Dr. Elias Watson's London clinic smelled of antiseptic and quiet desperation. His last patient, Milo Rossi, sat perched on the examination table, nervously tapping his Converse against the metal leg. 6 weeks post-op, the surgical scar on. Milo's abdomen was healing cleanly, a stark line against pale skin. Elias focused on the chart, not the way Milo's faded band t-shirt clung to lean shoulders. "Wound looks excellent, Milo," Elias stated, his voice carefully neutral. He kept his touch clinical ash, palpated the area around the scar. "No tenderness, bowel movements regular." "All good, Doc," Milo replied, his voice lighter than Elias remembered from PR surgery consultations filled with anxiety. Feeling almost human again, he offered a tentative smile that crinkled the corners of his dark eyes. Elias nodded, jotting notes. "Milo Rossi, 28, emergency appendectomy. No complications. Model patient. Really polite. Followed instructions, asked thoughtful questions." There was an intensity about him. Though a watchfulness Elias often saw in artists or writers, people who observed the world closely. He'd noticed the sketchbook poking out of Milo's back during previous visits. "Final check," then Elias said, stepping back, creating physical distance. "I am discharging you officially. No heavy lifting for another fortnight, but otherwise you're free." Hefford a professional smile. "Any final questions?" Milo hesitated, swinging his legs slightly. "Just thanks. Really, I know it was routine for you. But waking up in agony that night." He shuddered slightly. "You were calm. It helped." Elias felt an unwarranted warmth spread through his chest. He stamped it down. "Part of the job. Glad you're feeling better." He handed Milo the discharge papers. "Follow up with your GP if anything concerns you, but I don't anticipate issues." As Milo hopped off Thedable, pulling his shirt down, Elias caught a glimpse of intricate black linewig tattooed on his forearm, geometric patterns intertwined with delicate birds. It suited him. "Take care, Mr. Rossi," Elias said formally, turning towards the sink to wash his hands. A ritualistic barrier. "You too, doctor." "But what's it?" Milo replied. The door clicked softly shut behind him. Elias leaned against the sink, the water running over his hands. He stared at his reflection in a small mirror above it. Tired eyes, lines deepening at 42. The perpetual slight stoop from long hours. Milo's gratitude was genuine, touching even. But it was just patient appreciation. Nothing more. Yet the quiet energy that had left the room with Milo felt significant. Elias shook his head, dispelling the thought. Professional detachment was paramount. He had rules, boundaries, a life meticulously ordered to avoid complications. Milo Rossi was now a closed file. He turned of the tap, thessalence of the empty room suddenly profound. 3 weeks later, Elias found himself in the fluorescent glare of a late-night supermarket. Basket containing microwave meals and cheap coffee, the staples of his existence when too tired to cook. He was mentally replaying a difficult consultation. The weight of a terminal diagnosis delivered earlier pressing down when he literally bumped into someone rounding the cereal aisle. "Oh God, sorry," a familiar voice exclaimed. Elias steadied. The other man instinctively, his hands gripping firm shoulders. Recognition hit him like a milled electric shock. "Milo!" Milo Rossi blinked up at him, surprise widening his eyes. He looked healthier, color back in his cheeks, hair slightly messy. He held a basket containing organic vegetables, artisan bread, and sketching charcoal. "Dr. Watson." "Wow, small world," he grinned. A genuine open expression Elias hadn't fully seen in the clinic's constrained environment. "Indeed," Elias managed quickly, releasing Milo's shoulders, feeling the residual warmth through the thin cotton of his hoodie. "How are you?" "Fully recovered, Itrust?" He kept his tone professional. Doctor to former patient. "Absolutely." "Back to climbing ladders and wrestling canvases," Milo said, gesturing vaguely. "I'm a scenic painter. Theater sets," he nodded, towards Elias's sparse basket. "Long day the usual," Elias replied, shifting his basket. "Emergency surgery tends to disrupt meal planning." He felt oddly exposed under Milo's attentive gaze. "Tell me about it. Rehearsals run late." Suddenly it's PM and you're foraging. Milo's smile was easy. I'm glad I ran into you properly. I mean, wanted to say thanks again properly. Without the paper gown, he laughed. A warm, slightly self-deprecating sound. Elias found himself smiling back genuinely. The paper gown isn't anyone's best look, but thanks aren't necessary. Seeing patients recover well is thanks enough. It sounded stiff, rehearsed. Milo's expression softened. Still, it meant something. You were kind when I was scared. He held Eli's gaze for a beat longer than felt strictly casual. Well, he cleared his throat. Breaking the moment, I won't keep you from your gourmet feast. He nodded at the microwave meals. Elias felt a ridiculous pang of embarrassment about his dinner choices. Right. Good to see you looking so well, Milo. He used the first name deliberately this time. A subtle shift. You too, doctor, Milo replied. Take care. He moved past Elias down the aisle. Elias watched him go for a second, the confident set of his shoulders, the way his jeans fit. He shook his head sharply. Former patient boundaries, Watson. He grabbed the nearest box of cereal, not even looking at it, and headed for the checkout. Themage of Milo's easy smile lingering, a stark contrast to the sterile loneliness of his impending microwave meal. Months passed. London shifted from damputum to biting winter. Elias buried himself in work. The encounter with Milo fading to a peculiar, slightly unsettling memory. Then, an invitation arrived, slipped under his clinic door in a crisp, white envelope. Private view. Urban Echoes New Works by Milo received Foundry Gallery, Shoreditch Friday 7 p.m. Elias stared at the elegant script. Milo Rossi, the name sent an unexpected jolt through him. How had Milo known where to find him? A quick check of the clinic directory? It felt deliberate, intrusive, or flattering. He shouldn't go. It blurred lines. He had no business in his former patient's personal life. Yet curiosity burned a scenic painter creating his own work. What did Urban Echoes look like? The sketchbook he glimpsed. Friday night found Elias navigating the crowded, trendy gallery in Shoreditch, feeling distinctly out of place in his dark suit, amidst ripped jeans and statement glasses. The air busted with chatter and the clink of wine glasses. Then he saw them. Large canvases dominated the white walls. Not theater backdrops, but powerful, evocative cityscapes. Tower blocks rendered in moody grays and blues, fractured by unexpected bursts of warm gold light from windows. Reflections in rain. Slick streets creating abstract dreamlike doubles of the urban chaos above. They were technically impressive, but also deeply emotional, capturing London's isolating grandeur and hidden pockets of warmth. He's talented, Elias thought, genuinely impressed. He spotted Milo near a particularly striking piece depicting the Thames at dusk. Milo was animated, talking to a small group, gesturing passionately. He wore dark-fitted trousers and a deep green sweater that brought out the warmth in his eyes. He looked confident, alive, utterly different from the vulnerable patient or the surprised man in the supermarket. As the group moved on, Milo's gaze swept the room and landed on Elias. Surprise flickered. Then a slow, warm smile spread across his face. He excused himself and walked over. Dr. Watson, Milo said, his voice warm with genuine pleasure. You came up close. Elias caught the faint scent of turpentine and cedar beneath Milo's cologne. I was intrigued by the invitation, Elias admitted, feeling his professional mask firmly in place despite the sudden acceleration of his pulse. Your work is remarkable, Milo. Truly thank you, Milo replied, his eyes searching Elias's face. That means a lot, especially coming from you. He gestured towards the Thames painting. It's about layers. What's visible? What's hidden beneath the surface? Reflections. Echoes. Like the human body, Elias found himself saying, surprising himself. Surface symptoms. Deeper causes. Milo's smile deepened. Exactly. See? Not so different. Our fields. He took a step closer, lowering his voice slightly. Look, I know this is unorthodox. Me inviting you, but after the supermarket I wanted you to see this. See me, not just the guy on Thedable. Elias felt the carefully maintained boundary tremble. Milo, he began, caution threading his voice. I know, Milo interrupted gently. holding up a hand. Doctor-patient thing. Boundaries? I get it truly. But he met Elias's gaze directly, his dark eyes serious, vulnerable again for a fleeting second. I'm not your patient anymore. Haven't been for months, and I find you interesting. Elias Watson. He used his first name deliberately. A mirror to the supermarket. The sound of his first name on Milo's lips sent a shiver down Elias's spine. The gallery noise faded. The line felt perilously thin. This is complicated, Elias stated, the words feeling inadequate. Life usually is, Milo replied softly, his gaze unwavering. I'm not asking for anything but your presence tonight. Just see Thart. See me. He held out a glass of wine he'd snagged from a passing tray. Stay! Elias looked from the offered glass to Milo's expectant, hopeful face, then back to the powerful layered cityscape on the wall. The professional in him screamed to leave, the man who felt a spark in a supermarket aisle. Thaman, intrigued by the depth in the paintings and the intensity in the artist's eyes, hesitated. He took the glass. For a little while he conceded, the boundary not crossed, but undeniably blurred. They didn't meet again immediately. Elias needed space, time to process the gallery, Milo's words, the undeniable pull he felt. He buried himself in complex cases, extra shifts, yet Milo lingered, the intensity in his eyes, the warmth of his voice saying, alias, the raw talent on the gallery walls. A fortnight later, on a rare afternoon off, Elias found himself wandering near the Foundry Gallery. He told himself it was coincidence. Rain began to spit, cold and insistent. Seeking shelter in a small, steamy-windowed Italian cafe, he ordered an espresso. As he sat down, he saw him. Milo was tucked into a corner booth, sketchbook open, a half-finished cappuccino beside him. Raindrops glistened in his dark hair. He looked up as Elias approached, surprise melting into that warm smile. Dr. Watson, fancy seeing you here. His tone was light, but his eyes held a question. Elias, please, Elias found himself saying, sliding into the opposite seat without invitation. We seem destined for collisions, Mr. Russi Milo, he corrected. Gently, and destiny sounds better than coincidence, don't you think? He closed his sketchbook, giving Elias his full attention. Escaping the rain, or escaping something else? Both, perhaps, Elias admitted, stirring his espresso. The cafe felt intimate, safe. I've been thinking about your show. The Urban Echoes concept. It stayed with me. Milo leaned forward slightly. Yeah, which piece? The temp zone, Elias said. The reflection. It wasn't just a mirror image. It was distorted, warmer, somehow more hopeful than the cold. Buildings above. Milo's eyes lit up. Exactly, you saw it. He seemed genuinely thrilled. That's Thecho. The city's harsh reality reflected back, but transformed by light, by perspective. Finding beauty in the cracks, he paused, studying Elias. Medicine must be like that sometimes, seeing beyond the illness. Elias thought of his terminal patient, the quiet dignity amidst the despair. Sometimes finding the human spirit beneath the diagnosis. It's not always easy. He rarely spoke about this with anyone. It's heavy, Milo said softly, understanding in his gaze. Carrying that, it wasn't pity. It was empathy. They talked not about medicine or art directly, but about London's hidden corners, terrible theater productions they'd endured, the struggle to find decent coffee. Elias discovered Milo's dry wit, his passion for vintage motorcycles, his fear of pigeons. Milo learned about Elias's love of obscure jazz records, his disastrous attempt at gardening, his quiet frustration with hospital bureaucracy. The conversation flowed easily. Naturally, the doctor and the artist dissolved, leaving just Elias and Milo. The rain lashed against the window, cocooning them in the warm, fragrant bubble of the cafe. Do as Elias finished his second espresso reality, nudged him. I should go, he said reluctantly, glancing at his watch. Rounds, Milo nodded. A flicker of disappointment quickly masked. Of course the city's sick need you. He hesitated, then pulled a charcoal pencil from his bag, scribbling on a napkin. Hez lit it across the table. My number. No pressure. Just if you ever want to escape the hospital smell for decent coffee, or talk about cracked pavements and hidden light. Elias looked at the napkin, then at Milo. The boundary was now a tangible thing between them on the sticky table. Crossing it felt monumental, potentially reckless. He picked up the napkin, the charcoal number smudging slightly under his thumb. Decent coffee is hard to find, he said, a tentative offering. Milo smiled. That crinkling at the eyes smiled at Elias was starting to crave. Tell me about it. Take care, Elias. He reopened his sketchbook, a silent dismissal that felt like an invitation. Elias stood, the napkin burning a hole in his pocket. He walked back out into the rain, the cold air shock. The weight of his responsibilities felt heavier. Yet somehow a small, unfamiliar spark of warmth flickered deep within him, ignited by shared laughter and the promise of a number on a cafe napkin. The space between them felt charged, full of potential and peril. Weeks became a cautious dance. Texts about coffee shops, brief safe encounters, a shared lunch in a busy museum cafeteria discussing Renaissance art vs modern medicine. Elias learned Milo's coffee order flat white extra hot. Milo teased Elias about his terrible taste in scarves. They talked books, films, the absurdity of life. They carefully avoided the minefield of their first meeting. The power dynamic that had brought them together. The connection deepened, a slow, steady current beneath the surface of friendly chats. The spark Elias felt in the supermarket had become a persistent glow. One rainy Thursday evening, Elias found himself outside Milo's warehouse studio in Hacknib, Wick responding to a slightly cryptic text. Flat white emergency. Also, my radiator's making apocalyptic noises. Moral support or engineering advice? It felt like a threshold. The studio was vast, high ceiling, smelling powerfully of oil paint, turpentine, and dust. Canvases leaned against walls. Half-finished, cityscapes sharing space with surreal sketches. Tools and brushes lay scattered. In the center stood a massive, intricate model of a Gothic castle, clearly a theater set piece, and by a grimy window, bathed in the gray afternoon light, stood Milo, frowning at a hissing radiator, a wrench in his hand. He looked effortlessly attractive in paint, splattered jeans, and athermal shirt. Apocalypse confirmed, Elias asked, closing the door behind him. Milo turned, relief washing over his face. Elias, thank God. It started groaning like a dying mammoth. An hour ago, he gestured helplessly at the valve. I'm good with canvas, less so with plumbing. Elias, whose DIY skills were equally dismal, couldn't help but laugh. I'm a doctor, Milo, not a plumber. But let's see, he approached, shedding his coat. They stood shoulder to shoulder, peering at the uncooperative valve. Elias pointed, his hand brushing Milo's arm. A jolt, subtle but undeniable. He pulled back slightly, Milo noticed. He lowered the wrench, turning fully to face Elias. The radiator was forgotten, the studio wassalant except for the drumming rain on the skylight and the frantic beat of Elias's own heart. The air crackled. It stopped groaning, Milo murmured, his eyes fixed on Elias's. A statement loaded with meaning. It's remarkably quiet now. Elias agreed, his voice low. The months of careful restraint, the suppressed attraction, the magnetic pull he felt since the gallery had all coalesced in this charged moment. The boundary wasn't just blurred, it was dissolving in the face of raw mutual feeling. Milo took a small step closer, closing the gap Elias had created. Elias, his name was a soft breath. This thing between us. It's not just me, is it? Elias looked into Milo's eyes, earnest, hopeful, vulnerable. He saw the former patient. Yes, but overwhelmingly, he saw the talented artist, the witty companion, the man whose presence had slowly filled a void Elias hadn't fully acknowledged. He saw the person who made him feel seen, not just as Dr. Watson, but as Elias. He thought of the rules, the potential complications, the ethical whispers. Then he thought of the warmth in the cafe, the sheered laughter, the persistent glow that had only grown brighter. No, Elias whispered the word heavy with finality and surrender. It's not just you. He lifted his hand slowly, giving Milo time to pull away. He didn't. Elias gently brushed a smudge of charcoal from Milo's cheekbone. The touch was electric. Milo's breath hitched. He leaned into the touch, his eyes fluttering shut for a second before reopening, blazing with emotion. He covered Elias's hand with his own, pressing it against his cheek. Then stop fighting it, he pleaded softly. Please. Elias Watson, the meticulous surgeon, the rule follower, looked at the man before him. No longer a patient, but a man he deeply desired. He saw the layers Milo painted, the echoes he captured. Hess saw a future crackling with possibility. He stopped fighting, leaning in slowly, deliberately. He closed the final distance. Their lips met, tentative at first, a question then deepening into an answer as Milo responded with equal hunger. It wasn't a collision this time, but a resonant meeting, an echo, finally finding its sore sound. The rain hammered down outside, sealing them in their own private world, where the past was acknowledged but no longer defined them, and the only boundary that mattered was the one they were crossing together, hand in hand. Enjoyed this story? Leave a like to let me know what part hit you the hardest. Tell me in the comments. I love hearing from you. Hit subscribe for new stories every day.